For the longest time, I've wanted to do a 23andMe ancestry DNA test, and I finally got around to doing it last month. I kid you not, the minute that I dropped off the testing kit at the post office, I was religiously checking the 23andMe app for updates on my test results because it does have to go through different steps. So about 4 days ago at around 4 in the morning, I got an email that my results were ready. I was like so scared to press the ancestry report because I don't know, there's just something about it that it's exciting, but it's also nerve-wracking. Let's just say I was surprised, okay? My dad is from Mexico. He was born there and he came to the United States when he was a small child along with his siblings. And he always told me that he was 100% Mexican, but he did feel like there was some family members of his that maybe came from Spain. My mom is half Armenian and half Polish. Her father is Armenian and her mother is Polish. I've always just assumed that I'm Mexican, Armenian, and Polish. It starts off with European. It says I'm 45.8% European. And it breaks it down first with saying that I'm 22.6% Eastern European. It found ancestry from Poland, Lithuania, and the Czech Republic. Crazy. Poland was a highly likely country match, which makes sense because my grandmother is Polish and she always said that she was 100% Polish, but it breaks it down further by providing 10 different regions in Poland that I share DNA with other 23andMe participants. Now, what really shocked me was that it also came back that I possibly have Lithuanian ancestry. So it goes on to say that although it is likely you had ancestors who lived in Lithuania in the last 200 years, 23andMe has not been able to identify the specific regions in Lithuania where your ancestors may have lived. So my grandmother told me that she could have sworn up and down that her father's side came from Russia, but now that I see this, I think it's possible that her father's side may have had roots in Lithuania as well as the Czech Republic, or perhaps that is my grandmother's mother's side that has roots in the Czech Republic. Here you can see that with the Czech Republic, it gives me 3 different regions, and it says it's a possible match. Regardless, this really shocked me because I was just going into it thinking it's just going to show up as Polish. It's not going to show up as anywhere else in Eastern Europe. As we continue on through the European section of my ancestry, it goes on to Southern European, and it says that I'm 18.8% Southern European with 14.2% Spanish and Portuguese, 0.8% Greek and Balkan, and 3.8% broadly Southern European. This validates what my dad said about him hearing from his family members that he possibly has ancestry from Spain. The Greek and Balkan, I have no idea where that could have come from. Okay, so now we're moving on to my second highest percentage in my ancestry test. I am 26.8% Western Asian and North African. I knew this was going to be on here because this is my mom's Armenian side. So it says I'm 23.9% Northern West Asian with 23.2% Iranian, Caucasian, and Mesopotamian ancestry. It says that my ancestors came from the eastern provinces of Turkey and possibly Armenia. So my great-grandparents, they had to flee Armenia and come to the United States because the Armenian genocide. Sadly, my great-great-grandparents were killed in the Armenian genocide, and I don't want to go into too much detail about what happened to them, but let's just say that it's absolutely heartbreaking and disgusting. A lot of people don't know about the Armenian genocide. A lot of people don't acknowledge it. It says that my Armenian family likely came from 3 different regions in Turkey. The first one is, I believe it's pronounced Ilaze. The second one is Diyarbakir. And the third one is Van. Again, I don't want to go into the politics or the debate on whether or not, you know, this is that way or this is the other way. I'm just talking about my ancestry, but I think it's pretty amazing that my family is from Turkey. And I was researching Elazığ, Diyarbakir, and Van, and these 3 regions in Turkey are predominantly Kurdish. Kurds or Kurdish people are an Iranian ethnic group native to the mountainous region of Kurdistan in Western Asia, which spans southeastern Turkey, northwestern Iran, northern Iraq, and northern Syria. My Armenian family members lived in Kurdish cities and towns in Turkey. It goes on to say that I'm 0.7% broadly Northern West Asian. And then here's the other part that was really cool. It identified another category, Arab, Egyptian, and Levantine. It says that I'm 2.1% Levantine. My mom told me that she's 99.9% positive that my great-grandmother, who is Armenian, also had Syrian ancestry. One of the Levantine countries is Syria. Lastly, it says that I'm 0.8% broadly Western Asian and North African. So that concludes my Western Asian ancestry. Third highest percentage in my test results were 24.3% Indigenous American. This is my father's side, the Mexican side. It says that I'm connected through shared Indigenous American ancestors to people from Jalisco, Nayarit, and Michoacan. This region is part of the Mexican Volcanic Cordillera, an active volcanic belt that spans central Mexico from east to west. Some people in this genetic group speak Purépecha or Cora. The powerful Mesoamerican Purépecha Empire in this part of western Mexico was never conquered by the neighboring Aztec Empire. Spot on. My dad is from the state of Jalisco, and he's from a very small village called San Jose Casas Caídas. So again, this makes complete sense to me. It ends off with saying that I am 1.6% sub-Saharan African. 1.1% is West African, and it breaks it down further by saying that I'm 0.7% Senegambian and Guinean. 0.4% broadly West African, 0.3% Congolese and Southern East African, 0.3% Angolan and Congolese, and 0.2% broadly Sub-Saharan African. If I can guess, it's probably my father's side, the Mexican side. I've looked at a lot of other Mexican, Puerto Rican, Dominican, or just Latin DNA results, and almost always there is some Sub-Saharan African ancestry that comes back on their tests because of the slave trade. It does have 1.5% of my DNA unassigned, and I looked into that further, and people who have unassigned DNA essentially have ancestors who came from multiple continents and who mixed many generations ago. So again, that does make sense. I do have very mixed ancestry. I mean, this is like all over the place. There is one category at the bottom, which is additional ancestry regions. And these are regions that reflect mixed ancestry or more recent migration in your ancestry. And that is Mexico and Central America. It says that there are 10 regions in Mexico that I share DNA with other participants. The first one is Michoacan. The second one is Jalisco. I said it before, but my dad is from the state of Jalisco, and Michoacan is right next to Jalisco. So this matches up as I expected it to. Another interesting and amazing and mind-blowing part of this ancestry DNA test, it's the physical features section. I was flabbergasted, okay? It knows that I have cheek dimples. Like when I smile, you can't really see it too well. I do have cheek dimples, and it says that I have a 58% chance of not having dimples or a 42% chance of having dimples. So I fell into that 42% category. Then it says that my genetics predict that I have a cleft chin. What is a cleft chin? It's a chin dimple, and I have one. It said that there was a 7% chance that I didn't have a cleft chin, and I somehow did inherit a cleft chin. And my mom and my grandfather on my Armenian side have a cleft chin. So that gene is clearly very strong on my mother's side, and it was passed on to me. Like, how crazy is that? That this test knows that based on spit that you submit in a tiny little tube. I don't know. Science, man. My earlobe type, 71% chance that it's detached, which my earlobes are detached. Like, they don't connect to my side of my face. So that's accurate. My earwax type is wet and sticky, and it was a high percentage of it being wet and sticky. And I know it's kind of gross, but my earwax is definitely on the wet and sticky side. And my brother's is too, and him and I are fully related. So I don't know who I inherited that from, whether it was my mom's side or my dad's side, but thought that was really gross, but also interesting. Eye color, it predicts that there's a highest chance of my eyes being dark brown, and then a second highest chance of my eyes being dark hazel. It's like in the sun, my eyes are extremely light, and even not in light, they have a lighter tint to them. Newborn hair. So it predicted that I had little or no hair at birth. I had a 60% chance of having little or no hair at birth. I was bald when I was born, and I didn't start getting hair on my head until I was probably a year old. I'm serious. There's a 1% chance that I would have had red hair. So I talked to my grandma about this, and my grandma, she had carrot red hair, and she's Polish. So I think this red hair gene comes from my grandmother's side, but obviously I didn't inherit red hair. There was a 1% chance. It predicts that there's an 81% chance that I have stretch marks. True, I do have stretch marks. It was like in the middle, but there was like a 41% chance that I have a little bit of a unibrow, or a 52% chance that I didn't have one at all. I don't have a unibrow. My eyebrows are actually very light, and they're not like, the strands of hair are not very thick. My brother inherited the really thick Armenian eyebrows, but he also does not have a unibrow. So I do think that this unibrow genetic trait came from the Armenian side, because I know that my grandfather and my uncle and my other Armenian family members do have very thick eyebrows. And then it says that I could possibly inherit a widow's peak, which is like the little thing, like the little divot that is in the middle of your forehead from your hair, and you can kind of see it, but I do have a widow's peak right there. I just think this is so interesting, and if you have the means to do it, and if you're curious to know more about your heritage and your ancestry, then I highly recommend getting one of these tests, because it blows my mind. Wow, that's really me. That is me. That's all I got. Bye.